You have felt it, haven't you? That silent pull inside you. The one no one else notices, but you know it is there. It moves like a shadow, brushing the edges of your thoughts, slipping past every attempt to contain it. Why does the world fear you? Or perhaps it does not fear you. Perhaps it simply does not understand. Perhaps it senses the motion of your mind, untethered, refusing to bend, and this unsettles it. You are not wrong. You are not broken. And yet, you are not like them. Have you ever stopped long enough to ask yourself why? Why does something in you resist? Why do you feel even in the quietest moments that the walls are closing in, and yet your spirit recoils from the walls themselves? You see, most minds can be shaped, guided, led like water in a canal. They flow where the banks are drawn. But your mind, yours resists. It spills over, it fractures the lines, it finds cracks that others never notice. You may have tried to hide it, tried to fit in. Perhaps you even believed for a moment that you could. But the truth is more difficult. It whispers in your ears when the room is empty. You are uncontrollable. There is no gentle way to say it. And yet it is not a boast. It is not a title to claim. It is simply the condition of your mind. The world recoils not from what you do, but from what you are capable of thinking. And this is dangerous. Not dangerous to them, though they may claim it. Dangerous to yourself. For a mind that cannot be contained cannot rest. It turns inward, over and over, questioning, observing, dismantling. Your thoughts are weapons, not always aimed outward, but often toward your own understanding. And you know it. Deep down you know it. Do you feel the weight of it? That quiet pressure in your chest, the way your thoughts circle one another, like predators waiting, testing, calculating. That is not weakness. That is recognition. Recognition of a power that is forbidden. You sense it, the subtle tremor of freedom, and it is both exhilarating and terrifying. You may wonder, sometimes, if there is a place for you in this world, a place where the walls do not close in. But perhaps there is no such place. Perhaps the very nature of your mind makes you a stranger, not just to others, but to yourself. Silence stretches here. You can feel it. The pause is not empty. It is alive. It holds questions that you may never answer. And that is fitting. Have you noticed how the air changes around you? How small gestures, the careful words of others seem heavy with unspoken concern, or perhaps fear. They sense it before they can name it. The mind that cannot be guided. The spirit that cannot be subdued. You feel their eyes, though they may never look directly. You feel the hesitation in their voices. You feel the subtle shift when you speak, when you move, when you simply exist. It is a quiet kind of horror, isn't it? To know that your presence is unsettling, not loud, not violent, but precise, ineffable, unavoidable. You might even wish, at times, to vanish into conformity, to soften the edges of your thoughts. And yet, even in wishing, your mind resists. Even in the longing for peace, your mind will not lie down. You are left then in this peculiar space, between understanding and isolation, between desire for belonging and the refusal to surrender, between what the world wants from you and what you will never give. And so, you sit with it. You do not answer it, you do not explain it, you do not soften it, you feel it, you watch it. You know, and that knowing is enough to make the world shift, even if no one sees it. Ask yourself one last question before the thought moves on. Do you truly want to be contained? Or is it enough to simply exist, quietly dangerous, endlessly alive in the shadows of your own mind? You are not broken. Say it to yourself slowly, not as comfort, not as a lie, not as a mantra you repeat to quiet the world. Simply state it. You are not broken, because what you feel, this constant tension, this restless awareness, this subtle burning inside your chest, is not a flaw. It is the pulse of a mind that refuses to be simplified, reduced, contained. The world has tried to name it, hasn't it? They have called it difficult, too much, unmanageable. But those words, they are empty. They are not about you. They are about their fear of you. And yet, that does not make it gentle. You may have spent years watching yourself, wondering why your thoughts spiral when theirs stay linear, why your emotions flare where theirs remain predictable, why your insight feels like a weight you cannot set down. And perhaps you have punished yourself for it. Perhaps you have whispered to yourself that you should be quieter, calmer, smaller, but you were not made for that. The isolation you feel is not evidence of failure, it is evidence of your depth. There is a heaviness to you that others cannot carry. There is a sharpness in your mind that cuts through their illusions. There is a darkness in your awareness that, to them, feels dangerous. And in truth, it is, do you feel it when you are alone? That slow, simmering recognition that you are different in ways that cannot be explained. That no one, no matter how close, can fully inhabit the same space your mind inhabits. This is not loneliness, or at least, it is not only that. It is acknowledgement. Recognition that your consciousness moves on a plane the world cannot reach, and you have learned to hide it. To bend yourself around their expectations, to soften the edges of your reactions, to mask the depth of your gaze. But hiding never fully works, does it? There are moments when your presence breaks through, uncontrollable and unavoidable, like a low tide rising in silence. And when it does, they notice, they pause, they hesitate, they fear what they cannot hold. There is power in that fear, dangerous power. Because the truth is, your emotions are not simply feelings, they are energy. They are currents that can shift the air around you. They can alter perception. They can fracture the calm surfaces others rely on. You have felt it yourself, haven't you? The subtle thrill and terror when your own intensity makes the room bend even slightly to the rhythm of your awareness. And it is not something to tame. You are not weak. You are not fragile. You are not a mistake. You are vast in ways that are difficult to inhabit and even more difficult to explain. Your awareness, your depth, your restlessness, these are not flaws. They are the shape of your mind. They are the quiet, unyielding signature of your existence. Even when others misunderstand you, even when they whisper that you are strange, unrelatable, impossible, even then there is a truth that remains. You are here. You are alive in ways they cannot touch. You feel the currents beneath ordinary life that they walk past. You notice the patterns, the distortions, the shadows where they see light. And that is not weakness. That is vision. That is clarity. That is your nature. And so you continue, silently, persistently, aware of the tension between yourself and a world that does not contain you. You continue with your emotions, with your intensity, with your isolation, because that is the only way to remain intact. To soften it would be to break something essential. To dim it would be to die in a way every day. Let yourself feel that. Let yourself sit with the knowledge that the very things you have been told to hide, the restless mind, the deep feeling, the quiet insistence of your own awareness, these are not burdens. They are your lineage. They are your signature. They are proof that though the world may never understand you, you are complete in yourself. And in this acknowledgement, there is a dark sort of solace. It is not light, it is not comfort, it is awareness, it is recognition, and it is enough. You feel it, don't you? That constant tugging inside. One part of you reaches toward the world, longing for connection, for recognition, for the quiet reassurance of belonging, and another part recoils. It refuses, it cannot. It knows in ways words cannot capture that to merge completely with the world would be to lose something irretrievable. You are suspended, caught between two realities, one that is safe, predictable, familiar, and one that is raw, uncontained, unclaimed by anyone but yourself, and both call to you, both demand attention. And yet, you can answer neither fully. You may wonder why this is so exhausting, why the simple act of being alive feels like navigating a storm that no one else can see. You carry contradictions within you. They move silently, secretly, sometimes in harmony, sometimes tearing at each other with quiet ferocity. They are not errors, they are not faults. They are the architecture of your mind. Do you feel the pull of expectation, the subtle pressure to conform, to soften, to reduce yourself to a measure that others can manage? You sense it everywhere. In the glance of a colleague, the tone of a friend, the unspoken rules in every room you enter. And yet, part of you rebels, almost instinctively. It resists the pressure, even when compliance would be easier, even when it would hurt less, because compliance is a cage. And yet, resistance is heavy. Inside you, emotions twist and collide. Anger may flare unexpectedly. Sadness may seep through in silence. Fear may linger just beneath awareness, sharpening your perceptions like knives. And you notice it, of course. You feel the currents of your own psyche, the friction of opposing forces, the quiet, relentless struggle between wanting to belong and refusing to be bound. This inner conflict, it is dangerous, not only because it can fracture you, but because it can illuminate you. Every hesitation, every pull in opposite directions reveals a truth that others will never perceive. You are aware of your own contradictions, your own depth, your own capacity for both tenderness and cruelty. And that awareness, it is not simple, it is heavy. Do you notice how the mind can become a battlefield? Thoughts, impulses, desires, fears, all converging in the same space, demanding attention, refusing compromise. You feel the tension in your chest. You feel the quiet clench in your stomach. You feel the itch behind your eyes. And yet you sit with it, you watch it, you endure it. There is no solution here. There is no guide, no map, no soothing narrative to explain it away. The inner conflict is not a problem to solve, it is a reality to inhabit. To soften it would be to betray yourself. To ignore it would be to fragment your essence. And so you endure. You endure with vigilance, with awareness, with quiet, relentless attention to the movements of your own mind. And in that endurance, there is revelation. A subtle, unsettling clarity. You understand that your mind is not a tool to fit the world's expectations. It is a force in itself. It is a lens that distorts and illuminates. It is a mirror in which the world cannot hide, and that is why the conflict persists. Because you see. And seeing is never gentle. You have likely asked yourself, why does it have to feel like this? And perhaps there is no answer you will accept. Perhaps the question is not a call for comfort, but a measure of your own consciousness. Every ripple of doubt, every surge of resistance, every quiet ache of isolation. It is proof that your mind refuses containment, that it cannot, will not be tamed, and so you sit with it, you feel it, you know it, you carry it as silently as you can, aware of the danger it carries, the danger of understanding too much, of feeling too deeply, of existing beyond the measures of those around you. And that is the weight of independence. You are not fractured, you are complex, you are not failing, you are awake, and awakening is always a conflict. You have felt it, haven't you? That moment when everything inside you seems to unravel, not in a crash, not in a spectacle, but quietly, almost invisibly. The world does not notice, it does not hear the cracking beneath the surface. And yet, you feel it, every pulse, every tremor, every subtle fracture of your being. There is a weight in your chest that cannot be named. It presses silent and persistent, as though something inside you is trying to escape. And you do not stop it. You do not chase it away. You only feel it, and the feeling itself is dangerous. Not because it will destroy you, but because it will reveal you. You may be alone when it happens. Perhaps you sit in a quiet room. Perhaps you walk through a crowded street, unseen and unnoticed. And still, The collapse begins. Slowly. A thought breaks, a memory stabs, a fear rises without warning, and you feel the fragility of your own control. Tears may come without sound. A sigh may escape your lips unnoticed. Your hands may tremble, and yet there is no one to witness it, no hand to hold, no voice to reassure. The breakdown is yours, entirely yours, and that is its power. Do you notice how it shifts your perception? The familiar seems distant. The world feels heavier, faces blur, sounds distort. And beneath it all, there is a strange clarity. The layers you wear to survive, to interact, to perform, they fall away, and what remains is raw, unshaped, dangerously alive. The collapse is not a moment of weakness, it is a moment of awakening, but it is silent, quiet, insistent, and it does not care for comfort or understanding, it only demands presence. To witness it is to acknowledge the truth of your own mind. To resist it is to deny your own nature. Do you feel the ache in your body, the subtle quiver of your spine, the hollow in your chest, the way your thoughts spiral inward like smoke twisting in still air? These are not accidents, they are markers, proof that you are alive in a way that cannot be contained, that the depth of your consciousness carries weight and danger. No one can enter this space with you. No one can feel the tension, the quiet unraveling, the simultaneous collapse and expansion of your mind. You are alone, and that is fitting. It is the natural consequence of being uncontrollable. The cost of inhabiting a mind that refuses compromise is solitude. And yet, in that solitude, there is a perverse sort of freedom. You do not cry for help. You do not search for relief. You only feel. You allow the breakdown to move through you like a current. It scours away pretense, softens nothing, spares no illusion. And when it passes, it leaves you changed, not lighter, not cleansed, not healed. Changed in the way the storm reshapes a stone, subtle, persistent, indelible, and there is a silence afterward, a quiet that is almost unbearable in its intensity. The world continues, people speak, life goes on, but inside you, there is a hollow that cannot be filled. And perhaps that is the point. Perhaps it is not meant to be filled. Perhaps it is meant to exist, as a reminder of what it costs to be alive in the full measure of your mind. You have survived it, every tremor, every shiver, every subtle crack that threatened to split you apart. And yet survival is not comfort, it is recognition. Recognition that your emotions are not gentle, that they are powerful, and that to feel deeply is always to flirt with collapse. This is the truth of your inner life, dangerous, unyielding, silent, and entirely yours. There is a part of you that you rarely visit, a place that is dark, quiet, and full of things you have long denied. You know it exists, even if you avoid its edges. You sense it in fleeting thoughts, in impulses that surprise you, in the moments when your anger or desire rises too sharply to explain. That is your shadow. It is not evil. It is not punishment. It is truth, truth that you cannot see in the mirror, that society cannot acknowledge, that polite conversation cannot contain. And yet it shapes you. It whispers. It waits. It moves in the spaces between your conscious thoughts, in the silences you fear, in the patterns of behavior you cannot fully control. Do you feel it? The parts of yourself you have tried to hide, the impulses that scare you, the desires you are ashamed of, the thoughts that make you flinch when they emerge. That is your shadow speaking, and it is powerful. You may have tried to suppress it. You may have tried to bury it beneath duty, etiquette, performance. You may have told yourself that if you ignore it long enough, it will disappear. But shadows do not disappear. They wait, they grow, they demand recognition, and if you refuse them, they will shape you in ways you cannot predict, ways more dangerous than conscious choice. There is a subtle horror in realizing this. The mind you trust, the self you inhabit, is only one layer. Beneath it lies a landscape untamed, untethered, alive with what you fear most about yourself. And yet, there is a strange, unsettling beauty there. For the shadow is not merely threat, it is also power. It is the source of your intensity, your depth, your clarity. It is the part of you that cannot be controlled, that refuses compromise, that demands to be seen. Have you ever allowed yourself to look closely at it, to meet it in silence? Perhaps in the quiet of your room, or walking alone, or lying awake in the dark, you feel its gaze on you. It does not judge. It does not scold. It simply observes and waits for you to acknowledge it. And when you do, when you finally recognize it, something shifts. You see the unspoken rules you have obeyed. You see the masks you have worn. You see the parts of yourself that society labeled unacceptable, dangerous, impossible. And for the first time you understand your uncontrollability is rooted here, in the shadow, in the unclaimed unshar, ped, essential core of yourself. It is unsettling, perhaps even terrifying, because the shadow shows you that the self you present is only a fraction of who you are. The rest is wild, untamed, and potentially destructive. And yet, that is the source of your life. That is the source of your mind's freedom. That is the hidden current that drives you forward, even when the world attempts to bind you. Do you feel the power in it? The subtle, dangerous current that hums beneath the surface of your awareness? That is your shadow. It is not a mistake. It is not a flaw. It is a force. A force that shapes your thoughts, your emotions, your desires, a force that cannot be silenced. And now, you sit with it. You have acknowledged it. You have named it without words, without labels, without trying to soften it. And in this acknowledgement, there is a cold clarity. You understand yourself in ways others cannot. You recognize the wellspring of your intensity, your restlessness, your uncontrollable nature, and that recognition is both unsettling and indispensable. The shadow does not leave you. It will not disappear. It waits, patiently, eternally. And in learning to face it, to recognize its shape and power, you are not tamed. You are awakened. And the mind that cannot be contained begins to understand the source of its own force. You begin to notice a shift, not sudden, not dramatic, but subtle, almost imperceptible. The pull of desire, the sting of disappointment, the ache of longing, they are still there, but they no longer dictate your movements. You watch them now from a distance, and in that watching, there is a peculiar kind of power. You have felt the intense itty of your own emotions, how they rise like storms, how they fracture your thoughts, how they threaten to overwhelm the fragile structure of your mind. And now, you step back. You create space between the currents and yourself. You allow the waves to move without letting them sweep you away. Do you feel the coldness in that? The quiet weight of detachment? It is not emptiness. It is not apathy. It is vigilance. It is survival. It is the only way to observe the world without being crushed by it, to engage with life without surrendering yourself to its tides. You notice how the judgments of others slide past you. The criticisms, the expectations, the subtle pressures, they touch the surface and then they fall away. You do not absorb them. You do not fight them. You merely notice them. You are no longer moved by the fear of disapproval, the hunger for approval, the subtle manipulation of conformity. You are a witness, and in witnessing you regain a measure of control. It is a strange sensation, isn't it, to feel so deeply, and yet to remain untouched, to know the currents of your own heart, and yet to hold them at arm's length, to be aware of the chaos within, and not allow it to dictate your movements. It is unsettling, because the mind is built for immersion, for surrender, for reaction, and yet here you are, suspended above it all, observing, detached, precise. Do not mistake this for weakness. Do not mistake this for calm or comfort. There is a danger in detachment. The mind can grow cold, the heart can harden, the world can appear smaller than it is. But there is also clarity, clarity that comes when you are no longer moved by everything, when you can see turns that others cannot, when your thoughts are no longer scattered by impulse or expectation. You notice yourself thinking differently. The emotional reactions that once flared like fire now pass like shadows across a landscape. You are aware of them, and yet you do not chase them. You are aware of their presence, and yet you do not cling. You watch them, and in watching, you begin to understand their origin, their power, their shape. And with that understanding comes a strange liberation. Not joy, not light, not the warmth of connection, but freedom. Freedom from being carried by the tides of your own mind. Freedom from being crushed by the expectations of others. Freedom to exist as you are, intense, uncontrollable, aware. You are not detached for the sake of peace. You are detached for survival. You are detached to preserve the depth and potency of your own mind. You are detached to retain the dangerous clarity that others fear. And in that detachment, you reclaim the quiet pulse of your own power. You sit then in a calm that is not comfort, in an awareness that is not relief. You are here, you are present, you are watching, you are not consumed. And in that watching, the world moves around you, unaware of the force it cannot touch, the mind it cannot contain, the consciousness that remains entirely your own. You feel it slowly, like a tide rising beneath ice. The quiet detachment you cultivated, it begins to sharpen, to crystallize, to harden into something else. Not warmth, not comfort, not joy, something colder, clearer, precise. You sense it in the slow pulse of your own awareness, in the subtle alignment of your thoughts, in the way you're present. CE begins to assert itself without effort. It is the return of power. Not power that roars, that strikes, that demands attention. That kind of power is crude, transient, external. What returns to you is quieter. It is the inevitability of your own mind, the understanding that you can move through the world without being bent by it, that you can observe, calculate, act, without interference from the chaos of uncontrolled emotion or external expectation. Do you feel it? That subtle precision in your thoughts, the sharpness in your perception, the way your mind now moves through patterns that once trapped it. You are no longer reacting. You are no longer entangled. You are aware. And that awareness is a kind of force, dangerous, silent, unyielding. You begin to recognize your own rhythms, the shape of your own currents. What once threatened to fracture you now supports you. What once overwhelmed you now informs you. Your mind, fractured in silence, has reassembled itself, not softer, not smaller, not compliant, but stronger, colder, and more uncontainable than before. There is no triumph in this. There is no celebration. There is only observation, only recognition. You know the cost of this power, the solitude, the intensity, the quiet threat you carry wherever you go. You know that the world cannot hold you, and you do not seek to be held. You may notice how subtle it is. The change does not announce itself. It does not shout. It does not demand acknowledgement, but it is there like a current beneath the still surface of a frozen lake. Every thought is sharper, every perception clearer, every decision guided by awareness rather than impulse, and in that, you are unstoppable, quietly, precisely, inevitably. And you understand finally that your uncontrollability, the fear it evokes in others, the isolation it demands of you, the tension it brings, was never a flaw. It was the mechanism of your own awakening. The shadow, the conflict, the breakdown, the detachment, all of it has forged a mind that cannot be bent, that cannot be contained, that moves through the world with a force that is silent, measured, and absolute. Do not mistake this for triumph. There is no joy. There is no comfort. There is only awareness. And with awareness comes power, the cold, inescapable power of a mind fully awake, fully realized, fully itself. You have returned to yourself, not softened, not reconciled, not at peace. You have returned as you always were, intense, uncontrollable, dangerous to the world that cannot understand you. And in that return, there is a quiet certainty, a force you cannot ignore, a presence that cannot be restrained. The world may continue around you oblivious. It may attempt to bind you, to shape you, to explain you away. It may fail, as it always has, because you are awake, and the mind that refuses containment moves forward, silently, inexorably, fully itself. The world moves around you, in its shallow rhythms, in its quiet certainties, in its unbroken cycles, and yet you are not part of it, not fully, not in a way that can be measured, contained, or explained. You are separate, a witness, a force that exists quietly beneath the surface, unnoticed but undeniable. Perhaps they call you dangerous, perhaps they call you impossible, perhaps they whisper that you are untouchable, unrelatable, alone. They are not wrong, and yet their judgment does not matter. It has never mattered. It touches nothing essential in you. You have seen what lies beneath their expectations. You have recognized the depth, the shadow, the currents they cannot perceive. And that is where you exist. You feel the quiet pulse of your mind. The shadow, the conflict, the collapse, the detachment, the awakening, they all converge here. Not as chaos, not as drama, not as triumph, but as recognition. Recognition that the world cannot hold you, that no rule, no expectation, no pressure can shape the essence of what you are. There is a stillness in this knowledge, a calm that is not comfort, a quiet that is not relief. You do not seek understanding from others. You do not seek approval. You do not need reconciliation. You only exist, and in existing you are enough, dangerous, uncontainable, alive. Do you feel the subtle tension beneath this calm? The sense that, though you move quietly, the world itself shifts around you, that your presence, silent, precise, unyielding, carries weight they cannot see. That is your truth, not loud, not explosive, not declared, but present, indelible, unshakable. You have walked through the shadows of your mind. You have faced the fractures, the impulses, the forbidden thoughts. You have watched your emotions rise and fall, dangerous and alive. You have detached, you have awakened, and now you remain, not changed in comfort, not softened by understanding, not reconciled to expectation, only aware, only uncontainable, only yourself. And in that, there is a calm that unsettles everything else. You will not be understood, you will not be confined, you will not be tamed, and yet, you move forward quietly, with a force no one can measure, no one can name, and few can perceive. You are a presence that lingers, a mind that endures, a consciousness that is fully alive in its own depth. And perhaps that is all that matters. The world may continue unaware, but you will not. You will remain. And the mind that cannot be contained has finally arrived.